So whenever you're ready.
Okay. You can just name it 1 minute one.
1 minute? Okay, awesome.
Okay, so today I want to talk to you guys about parent-child law, specifically in California because it's the first state to pass this law. So to start off with, just a quick overview of what we're doing here. So first I'm going to go over what is the parent-child law, what are some of the legislation that passed. Then I want to go into what critics believe, what are some of the skepticisms and concerns about this law. Then I want to look at 2 case studies, one in Compton, California, and one in Delanto in California also, and see what are the problems and what occurred in that time. Then I want to see who supports this law, and is it a popular law, or did it just pass through some unorthodox lawmaking, and how can this law be improved. So I'm offering some suggestions to improve this current law. So first, what is the parent-child law? So on January 7, 2010, California became the first state ever to pass a parent-child law. What this allows is, when you have a failing public school, 51% of parents can get together and sign petitions in order to get educational reforms in their schools. So there's 4 turnaround models that they can use and implement against school boards. So the first 3 to 4 models. The first is bargaining power. This allows parents to sit at the table and negotiate school reforms with teachers, administrators, and other officials. So that's not that very controversial, and just a way for parents to voice their opinions. The turnaround model is a little more extreme. It lets you fire up to 51% of teachers and faculty at a school, and it's when the school is just unsupportive of any reform that parents want. The transformation model occurs when you just fire the principal and you have some small changes, and it's not that extreme either. And then the charter conversion is maybe one of the more popular choices currently, and it brings in an outside independent charter school to take over your failing public school, and it's the most extreme. So we have, alright, so what do critics believe the current trigger law allows? So they have, the biggest concern is that the purpose of the law is to help parents, but in reality, they believe that the parent trigger law actually hurts families and children's education. So when I first heard of the parent trigger law, my first concern was, how do parents know what the best reform is for their children? They're not experts in education field. Many of them, they didn't graduate from high school, so how do they know what's best? And should they just leave the school board officials to decide? So what teacher unions claim is that outside charter schools and corporate charters come in and make money off the backs of our children. They come in, these wealthy philanthropists, and they get free public land by taking over failing public schools. And that's their biggest concern. And the reason why they're concerned about this, they believe the parent-child law is really just a disguise for the charter school movement in general, and to weaken and destroy public education, traditional public education, by eliminating these failing schools and replacing with charter schools. So this is what they claim to happen. But we have 2 case studies. So the first one was in Compton. December 7, 2010, the first year that the law was implemented, Compton became the first district to ever attempt the parent-child law. So they were able to get 61% of petitions from parents, and they submitted it to Compton Unified. But Compton Unified was not going to go for it. So in the process of trying to convince parents not to sign this, they actually got a restraining order from the courts because they were harassing the parents. So they were really trying to do it, and when the final decision came in, the courts ruled that, based on technicality of not having a date box next to the signatures, that all the petitions couldn't be counted and no reform happened. So Compton Unified McKinley Elementary is the bottom 10% in California in education, even when considering similar demographics. So it's not just based on the demographics. And so what happened, they ended up just enrolling in Celerity, which is a local charter school a couple blocks away, but they weren't able to have that Celerity take over the failing public school. The second case was in Adelanto County, which just occurred a couple weeks ago, where the courts decided that they got 71% of the votes, and they were able to get Laverne Prep Academy to take over. So this was more successful. There's, again, it was filled with controversies. There was cases of reports of threatening with deportation as to scare parents from not signing these petitions. And there's also claim that charter schools and outside groups were telling parents that, oh, sign this petition and we'll fix bathrooms in your school, we'll give them more benefits. And they were just lying to the students. So the two main organizations in charge of this movement are Parent Revolution, which is an independent group based out of LA, and CTA, which is the parent union, LA teacher union, sorry. So Parent Revolution comes in and gives you a process. They give you a model to start your movement. So they educate you about the law, give you your options. They encourage you to join small committees of parents, maybe like about 10 members, who will do most of the work and try to organize other parents and have meetings and discuss what the best of the 4 turnaround models they should implement. The CTA tries to go out and convince parents not to sign these and show them the dangers of charter schools and outside corporate officials trying to take over. So, who supports this law? So it may seem like this pro-charter school movement that conservatives apply for more school choice. But in fact, it's a bipartisan law passed with support from people like Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, you have Cory Booker, Antonio Villaraigosa, and you also have conservatives like Jeb Bush and Bobby Jindal. So it's a bipartisan issue, and they believe that this gets politics away from the issue. You don't involve politics and teacher unions and campaign contributions. It focuses on the parents and allows them to take over. So that's why these politicians of both sides of the aisle support this law. But in fact, even the public supports this law. So when asked, this is a Gallup poll question a couple months ago, asking if they support parent trigger law. And you have 70% of people in favor of it, and 76% of public school parents in favor of it. So, and then Students First, another special interest group, did a similar study, and they got pretty much the same results. 70% approval, so 26 opposed. So the public supports it also, so it's not this conservative movement for charter schools. It's a bipartisan effort with popular support. So, how can this law be improved? Even though we see people support it and it can help parents, it's still a very controversial law with lots of divisive nature and having parents against other parents who want charter schools, who don't want charter schools, and so you have a lot of controversy around it. So, teacher unions argue that if you have strong PTA membership, you don't need a parent trigger law. If you have a lot of parent support and are concerned with children's education, communicate with the administration, they can easily reach education reform. They don't need parent trigger law. The problem is Doran Diaz, who is the leading member in the Adelanto school movement, was the president of the PTA, and there was no reform, and she was trying to get parents to help out, and it just didn't work out. So PTA could help out, but it involves a lot of time commitment from parents who don't have a lot of time, spare time. They're working most of the time. These come from low background families, so they don't have all this spare time to be constantly involved in PTA. So they argue, well, then if you just want to have since a quick signing up petition, the equivalent would be voting in an election. You can vote in school board elections and have eliminate and remove school boards you don't like and replace them with people you do like. The problem is, and it's based off Terry Mills' research here at Stanford, that teacher unions have significant influence in local elections. You have 50% increased probability of a non-incumbent candidate win with teacher union support. So in these cases, you're fighting against incumbents, so the effect is even larger. One concern, though, is it's not all stuff in favor for parent unions, parent trigger laws. You also have this classic political science problem called cycling or policy churning, where you have frustration on parents who want reform. So they use the trigger law to get their reform. The problem is, if they don't allow enough time for the reform to implement, then there'll be no noticeable changes, and they'll get frustrated again and try to change the school again, use another trigger law to fire another principal or get another charter school to come in, and it just shifts to a cycle that they don't allow enough time to go by. So the solution to this is forming parent unions where they get together and they have a set agenda for multiple years. It's not because if you think about it, every 2 years, 50% of high school parents leave because their kids graduate. So every 2 years you have a new majority of parents that come in and they can implement new laws like, oh, 2 years ago we passed this trigger, it didn't work, let's pass a new one. So if parent unions have set goals for multiple years that allow you this freedom. So in conclusion, I believe that they should have town hall meetings where you bring in both sides. You bring in Parent Revolution, teach you about the law and tell you your options. You have teacher unions who come in and tell you warning against charter movements, and don't let these wealthy philanthropists take over. You have open discussion that can ask questions, that encourages parent involvement, and eliminates this divisive and hostile environment.
Great. Thank you, Hector. Alright, so let's take a minute to fill this out.